Hi, I'm Trip Babbitt, and this is the 19th episode of the Effective Executive podcast. And in this episode, I want to talk about what W. Edwards Deming referenced as American toast, which is you burn, I'll scrape. The next video will be on this type of subject also. So next Monday, I'll be releasing something that fits into this type of thinking. But this is a continuation of, and I've not talked about this on the podcast, but in my YouTube playlist series of old versus new management thinking that you can actually see at the95method.com/old versus new. So OLD VSNEW. And this playlist is talking about basically old management thinking that was initiated by Frederick Taylor in the early 1900s, and then what W. Edwards Deming and others brought along later as the century advanced. But the last episode that I talked about was about Taylor's view of the worker and the theory X versus the theory Y of McGregor, basically intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. But you can listen to it from that playlist that I just gave you the link to. But Dr. Deming's comment about American toast, you burn, I'll scrape, really had to do more with inspection. And there was this whole thinking along the lines of what Frederick Taylor was trying to do of increasing productivity for American manufacturers by getting rid of inefficiencies. And when Dr. Deming came along, it was still around the idea of productivity, but achieving it through developing quality products and services. So there's differences. And again, I'll send you back to that playlist if you want to learn more about that YouTube, because I'm not covering it in the podcast. But the productivity focus that Taylor had and not quality, basically this illustrates the mindset of make as many as you can, as fast as you can, and then inspect in the quality of the product. In other words, look at the product. If the product didn't meet a specification, then we either scrap it or rework it. Now, we know today from the work of W. Edwards Deming that when you do that, there's costs involved, right? So you have the cost of trying to find the ones that don't meet the specification. And but what Taylor was promoting was robust inspection. He wanted, a lot of his focus, even for getting rid of inefficiencies or eliminating inefficiencies, was doing that through improving the inspection process. So his mindset wasn't around improving quality. Deming, on the other hand, said, boy, if you aren't creating scrap and you aren't having to rework things, that you're actually saving money. And so a totally different mindset between those two thinkers. And again, as I've pointed out throughout, the mindset still in universities today, in a lot of organizations, I would say, most organizations still have this kind of Taylor influence because they don't understand Deming, and it takes some depth in order to get into the work of W. Edwards Deming. But the concept of American toast goes beyond just inspection. So that was what Dr. Deming. Now, what I found over the years is it comes play in a lot of different ways. So for instance, you see in organizations, whether it's manufacturing or service, where management has this mindset of hiring the cheapest people to work with their customers. Now, I don't understand that mindset. It's this kind of productivity versus quality type of mindset. And along with that, then management thinks that, well, if I don't train or I don't train robustly, I'm going to save money too. So one of the first things that goes when things get tight are people in the training department or even doing training at all for employees. So, you know, this mindset also leads to, well, with the mindset of, well, if I'm hiring the cheapest people, it's okay because, I'll just fire those that don't really make it or don't meet my specification. Now, there's huge unintended consequences associated with that. Most of you have heard these things, which is, what about the cost of hiring that person and replacing them and training them? But if you're not spending any money on those types of things, your system is in there. Now, ultimately, I don't believe your business is going to survive just because when you're hiring the cheapest people, they're, they're interacting with customers. It just does not make sense. But the other things it leads to is you get a lot of low morale because you're being micromanaged by managed because they got to watch you, right? I mean, if you're not training them and you're not doing anything, then the only thing you got is basically a stick to hammer them over the head all the time, or watch every move that they make. And to me, this is really insane. But I see it more often than not in organizations still today. Now, another thing that happens that I'm going to extend this type of thinking of American toast of you'll burn, I'll scrape into the way that organizations safeguard things. So for instance, you hire the cheapest people, they go in a warehouse, let's say, and at that warehouse, what happens is then you got to have lots of security because people are going to steal things if they're of value from the organization. And so what's the price of security? What's the price of having metal detectors? What's the price of the people you're paying around, as opposed to paying a wage and giving people training? You wouldn't necessarily have to have all of that stuff. So there's these unintended consequences that people don't realize sometimes when they're trying to save. It's kind of a penny wise, dollar foolish type of mindset, which is, I got to save some money here. I can do it with the workers that I have. So from this video, hopefully you understand now that effective executive is trained in synthetic thinking, understanding the system that's out there, understands the impact and unintended consequences of making American toast. You burn, I'll scrape. And if you want to keep updated and get the next video/podcast on this subject, which I will be covering next week, which will be covering the loss function analysis component of this, go to the95method.com/broadcasts. And also you can go to YouTube, The Effective Executive, and these things come out in both video and podcast format. But I do put a lot more content into my YouTube videos that I'll reference during the course of some of the podcasts. So check out that YouTube playlist of the old versus new management thinking at The Effective Executive, and the link that I provided earlier in this video. I hope that helps you this week. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to getting the broadcasts as they come out, and hit the bell on YouTube, and you'll be notified as I release more. I'm probably releasing about 3 videos, including the one for the podcast on Mondays, but 2 others that I'm doing during the course of the week on the subject of old versus new management thinking at the moment is kind of what my focus is on, or expanding that thinking in the podcast and referencing other videos that come through. So hopefully that's been helpful to you, and I will catch you next Monday. And if you go to the YouTube channel, I'll probably catch you later this week.